and I'm really excited to teach you all about React using the latest techniques, starting with React hooks, Gatsby, style components, and a lot of UI and animations using CSS techniques. Now in this course, we're gonna build a real site that is currently live at designcode.io. We're not gonna build the whole thing, but I'm going to try to cover as much as possible. So in the first part, I'm going to show you how to build this section right here. We're going to start at the very beginning, starting with how to install a Node.js and a React template called Gatsby, where we have the routing, performance, and SEO for free. Then I want to show you how to use VS Code to set up your project in terms of structure, how to set up your pages, your data, your sections, your animations, and images. It's important to note that this course is a lot focused on the CSS part as well. It's very much for designers who wish to code, but also for developers who wish to know more about interactions, structure, how to reuse your styles and set up your layout in CSS Grid in an optimal way so that you can have an adaptive layout like this, and to be able to have interactions and animations, hover states, tooltips. We're going to use some effects such as the blur, transformations, 3D transformations. It's going to be a lot of fun. This course is a lot about workflow. And as someone who's been doing CSS for 20 years, React for a few years, and who knows a lot about other platforms such as SwiftUI, React Native, Flutter, my goal is to save you time and to make it easy for you to work with designers and developers, and really leveraging on the tools such as Figma to export code easily. So all the designs will be prepared for you, and you're going to be able to analyze and check the source, to inspect the code, and then moving on to VS Code, where you're going to build the real thing. So the Figma file will be provided. As you follow along, you're going to be able to see how the assets were prepared and how to save time by copying a lot of these CSS properties and not have to write them from scratch, such as gradients, background blur, and even positioning and adaptive layout. All right, I hope you're excited to get started. Let's head to nodejs.org, where you're going to install Node if you haven't yet. And there's a version for both Mac and Windows. So make sure to install the recommended one. And then afterwards, install the package. And once you're done, we're going to search for VS Code, install an application called Visual Studio Code, download for your platform. Then we're going to open it, and you're going to see a welcome screen like this one. We're going to move to the left tab and go to extensions. We're going to need a bunch of extensions to make our work easier, starting with Prettier. So make sure to click on Installed. Prettier is a very useful plugin for formatting your code, and you can set it on Save so that we can have very consistent code. It's very easy to find errors as well. Next, we're going to install Style Components. This is going to allow us to have syntax highlighting, meaning that you can see your CSS code in colors, and also you're going to be able to do auto completion as you're working with style components. Next, we're going to install GraphQL, and this is going to allow us to have code highlighting for GraphQL. In terms of theming, we're going to install Material. So we're going to use Material Theme and Material Theme Icon. Now, if you want to change the theme of your VS Code, you're going to press Shift, Command, and P. And here we're going to type Color Theme. We can select Color Theme. And when you click on it, you're going to be able to select one of the material theme. And the one I'm using right now is called Darker. Now, Command Shift and P is one of the most important shortcuts in VS Code. This allows you to search any command settings in VS Code. For example, we're going to search for user settings, And this is where we're going to search for format, enter, and make sure to have format on save checked. What this means is that anytime that you're coding and you save, then it's going to automatically format your code so that it's consistent with what your teammates have or with what I have as you follow along. Another good extension is called Git Lens. This is going to allow you to work within a team environment and also see who has changed what code, and so you know where the source of the problem or the source of the awesomeness come from. And then another good one is called Live Share. This is by Microsoft, and you're going to be able to code pair with someone else and see live changes as they connect to your session and change the code with you. All right, with that, we're going to start installing Gatsby. So you can search for Gatsby, and here, click on Start Building, go to Quick Start, and in order to install it, you're going to need this command right here. So let's copy this and then go back to VS Code. Let me just close the settings, close the welcome, and click on the Explorer. Now there's a very important shortcut in VS Code. It's Control-tilde. This is going to open terminal within VS Code, which is super useful. So you can also open it by using Command J, and I'm not sure if it works on all systems, but those are the two shortcuts that you can use. Now, before installing anything, we have to select a folder. By default, when you open the terminal, it's going to open where your project is. In this case, there's no project, so it's just going to go to the root folder of your Mac or Windows. So let's go to one of the folders, such as Downloads, for example. You can press Tab if you want to have auto completion. And in Downloads, this is where I'm going to install my project. But first of all, I want to install Gatsby. So let me paste that command, npm install-g gatsby-cli, and enter. If you see a bunch of errors on the Mac, that's normal. That's because you need to add sudo in front of it to have permissions. And once you do, you're going to have to enter your password for your system. Once you have entered your password, you press enter, and this is where you can install Gatsby. So at this point, if you have installed Node.js properly, then when you type npm, you should see something like this. And that means that npm works, which allows us to install Gatsby also. And if you have installed Gatsby properly, then if you type Gatsby, you should also see a bunch of options about Gatsby. So now, using Gatsby, we're going to install our new web project inside Downloads. So we're going to type Gatsby, new, and then the name of the folder. So new-site. But here's the thing, if you do this, it's going to use their default template, which is fine. But if they change their template in the future, then as you follow along this course, in the future, it might be inconsistent. So what I did was to create a new template based on their default template, and I simplified it a little bit without changing much. So it's on my GitHub. It's called Gatsby Starter Design Code, and we're gonna get the link to that GitHub repo. But don't worry, all of these commands are part of the text content of the course. You're going to be able to copy and paste from there. So here I'm going to paste that link and enter. Okay, so once it's installed, we're going to find the folder that we have just created, which should be in the Downloads folder. And here on my system, I have it here. So I'm going to drag and drop to the top portion of VS Code, and then it's going to open that project. So in the Explorer, you're going to be able to see these files right here. And I'm going to close the welcome, and then I'm going to open the terminal again. So Command J. So now the moment of truth is to start my local environment where I can preview my website. At this point, we're going to type Gatsby develop. So if you have set it up properly, you're going to be able to command click on localhost 8000 and voila, this is your website. And this is running based on the files that you have right here. Let me just put the two windows next to each other. So I'm going to go to different spaces, create a new space on the Mac, and then drag this to the right. So now I have my live website and the code to the left. If this is not looking pretty, that's totally normal. We are missing some padding, and of course, that's because we're starting at the very beginning. I want to make sure that moving forward, the structure is going to be very easy to learn. So first of all, let's make some changes. Now, for the terminal, I'm just going to close it for now. We're going to go to Gatsby config, and this is where you can set the title. So Gatsby comes with very good SEO, and that's kind of one of the main advantages of using this. If you go to the title, I can change it to design plus code or whatever is the title of your website. And if I save it, you can see that the changes happen in real time. The description the same, but this is mostly for SEO, meaning that the tag is in the source and it's going to be picked up by Google, and we're not necessarily going to see it on the website if you don't choose to use it. The Figma file, the assets, as well as the project files are provided. You can download it from the course. So we're going to be using a lot Figma to get the content and some of the complex CSS. So for example, we're going to use this content right here, the title and the description. So let me just copy the description. I can copy it from here. I can copy it from the inspect. So the third tab right here. And then I'm going to paste that in my Gatsby config. For the author, I'm just going to put my Twitter handle and save. Now, let's take a look at the actual structure of the website. These are configuration files, but the actual files for the project are all in src. So for any project, you need about 3 main folders. The first one is called components, and this is where you're going to put reusable elements such as buttons, modals, text. And right now we have a single folder called layout, and this is where we're setting the global CSS, as well as if you have header or footer, and this is where we have sort of the wrapper for every single page. And then the SEO, which is really important for setting the different description, keywords, cover images for Twitter, Facebook when you share your links. And we're definitely going to come back to this, but for now, I just want to explore the structure with you. So again, components, which has a single folder, and then we have pages, and this is super important. Starting with the index, this is the home page, and the code is exactly what you see right here, starting with the title, which is using an h1 tag. So if you know a little bit of HTML, you know that these are some basic HTML tags. The P for description, the text right here. And then we have a link that goes to the second page. So when you click on it, it goes to page-2.js. And you can see the title as well as the description and the link that goes back to the home page. So that's how you set multiple pages in your web app. And then we also have another tag called SEO, and this is specifically to Gatsby, and this is where we're setting the SEO title and keywords and stuff like that. Here we have the title, and that's why we have home right here as part of the title of my page. And then layout, this is the wrapper. Usually you're going to put the header and the footer inside the layout component. Finally, and one of the things that I thought was necessary to simplify is how we're dealing with images. So typically in React, you have to import the image, and I find that very cumbersome. So what I did was to create a folder called static, and then in the images folder, we already have all the assets for this project. So animations, avatars, companies, icons, logos, and waves. So everything's already being imported for you. That's going to make our life so much easier as we follow along. Now, to show an image, all you need to do is to set the image tag and the src and the link to the image, starting with /images, and it's going to find all the assets in the images folder. Now we're using mostly SVG because it's resolution independent, so any device is going to show the perfect resolution for your image, but also for a lot of glyphs and images, we don't need to use anything else than SVG. It's a lot lighter compared to PNG and JPEG. Now for PNG and JPEG, we're going to use those formats for photos and really large transparent backgrounds if necessary. And again, we're going to use mostly SVG because it's in vector and it's going to be sharp on any device out there. So that's basically it about the structure. And I just want to finish speaking a little bit about React in general. At the end of the day, React is a tool, just like Gatsby is a tool, Figma is a tool. So as long as we're building something that you want to build for your website, it doesn't matter. However, for us, React has worked really well, and it happens to be one of the most popular frameworks for web development out there, which is a great thing when it comes to working with a team and finding a job in the future. So if you want to have documentation and read what React is all about, you can go to reactjs.org. Specifically, we're using React hooks, which is an addition to React and making it simpler to create states and update states. And also you can have these sort of mini plugins called hooks that you can take from the community or write your own and make it super easy to update your state using a single line of code. So that's what we're going to use for this course. And the way we're writing each component is using the function and then the name of it with parentheses. So we're following the example of React hooks. At the end of the day, I want to make the code as clean as possible so that anyone can scan it, can learn from it, and it just clicks on the first try. If you want to learn more about React hooks, you can go to their website and they have really excellent documentation about it. So back to our design, we can just copy the text and update our index.js for h1 like this. See, when you save, you can see that it automatically updates and formats the code. So we can just update the text again and save again, and it's just instant. It's going to show the result in real time. Now that's the power of React. And also one thing that you might not have noticed is that the website never refresh, especially when you're using link. So the goal is to create an experience that can match that of a native app, for example. And you can see here that the pages never refresh and it's so responsive and fast to navigate like this. So a lot of these things will be taught in the course, and this is going to be a long one with multiple parts, and I'm really excited to show you all the techniques that I have learned. In the next session, I want to show you how to set your CSS global styles, how to reset it, and then how to create your very first React component. I'll see you then.